I was always told in Scientology whenever I was dissenting, it was like, you just think that you can get away with that because you're Jenna Miscavige. And so I'm saying that to myself in my mind. Oh, I think that people just want to listen to me because of my name and not because of my story. Mm-hmm. That's like the internal monologue that I'm always having, that I have to overcome every day. But in the end, it's something like I left. I decided that Scientology was bad on my own. I rebelled from it, and this is my story, and it's unique. And yeah, so.
There's a lot of, when I look at especially people that were Muslims or ex-Muslims, sometimes I see a lot of the content they make, and a lot of it revolves around being like ex-Muslim. And I wonder sometimes if it feels a little bit suffocating that like, okay, well, here I am to be the ex-Muslim guy again, or every single take I give is through that lens. And then I wonder sometimes if it feels like you're pigeonholed into just doing, I'm not a Scientologist anymore, here's why content. Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of asking for it because the name of my channel is Growing Up in Scientology.
Yeah.
Your channel is Jenna Miscavige.
Yeah, and I kind of...
She doesn't even do Scientology content.
I do too. Mine is more about the stuff that I like doing now. And in the end, my way of coming out of, like, it's about building a life that I didn't have. And so I can basically have anything under that banner, anything I want to do, anything that I'm interested in. And so in the end, everything kind of is about that, because it's learning about the world and learning who I am without having to like fall in line as a cult member. So I can't help but have some of it be about that. But I don't know, I guess I'm using it in a way that's helpful and productive to me, rather than it being something that I'm forced to do.
I guess when I say I'm not worried about being pigeonholed, it's not that I don't think it's going to happen, it's that I don't really mind.
Okay.
I don't really mind. I've always said, like, I'm just somewhat motivated by trying to be David Miscavige's worst nightmare. Okay. And that's not a battle that has to have only one winner. There could be 10 people trying to be his worst nightmare. But, you know, the way they just destroy families and destroyed my family and, you know, so many families, it's like, hey, you know where you can't fuck with us? YouTube. You know, I've got more subscribers than you have members in the world, and I'm just going to basically dunk on you every single day. You know, I live 5 minutes from the Flagland base in downtown Clearwater, Florida. And if I can do my videos every single day and there's not a damn thing they can do to me, there's a part of me that's like, just continuing on. Even if the content doesn't get better or more interesting or anything, just continuing on should at least send the message of, what can these people really do to you? Well, like, should you really be afraid to speak out? Should you really be afraid to leave? I'm motivated by pure revenge.
Okay. Yeah, I was early on, but now less so. But it's kind of like...
Hey, Mom. There it is.
What you said, like growing up in Scientology, they sort of, you don't have your own identity. Your identity is whatever Scientology wants you to be. You don't have your own interests. You don't learn about yourself. Nothing about what makes you an individual is cultivated. And so coming out, that's still what I'm learning now. I was still in there longer than I've been out. And I think for me to
shit. Oh, shit.
Like, you know how you're talking about how when you grew up, like, if you were just going against what your parents wanted, then that was still sort of controlling you in that way. So for me to purposefully only like avoid Scientology in every way would sort of be my version of that. And I'm coming to a sort of middle ground where I'm not only going against, or I'm not trying to stay away from Scientology as much as possible. I'm sort of mixing in what is my past and not running away from it with who I actually am now.
Have you mentioned being able to reference a state offline? Is there any
as much as possible? I'm sort of mixing in what is my past and not running away from it with who I actually am now.
You mentioned being able to reference a state offline. Is there any desire from ex-Scientologists to find, was his name Patrick? Desire
I
from.
don't know why it's
Am now.
so jittery right now.
You mentioned being able to reference a state offline. Is there any desire from ex-Scientologists to find, was his name Patrick?
Pat Broker.
Pat Broker,
Broker.
yeah. To like find him and to bring him out and to have him do the.
So I've never heard anyone express. Okay, I have an interest in doing that.
Yeah.
And I know where he lives.
Okay.
And I've thought about making a road trip.
Yeah.
And I very much think about it.
Oh, that sounds like it'd be really good content. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you both atheist now, or spiritual, or religious, or?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say.
Oh, that sounds like it'd be really good content. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it has to be.
Really good content. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you both atheist now, or spiritual, or religious, or?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say.
Fair to say atheist.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say.
Fair to say atheist.
Yeah.
When you look at the things that you saw in Scientology, are there other movements in the United States or in the world or whatever where you look and you're like, oh man, I see a lot of overlap between that stuff and, you know, this stuff?
Well, at the risk of
Stuff and, you know, this stuff.
well, at the risk of insulting a lot of people, the answer that my answer is based on the feedback I get from former members of this group, and it just happens to be the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay.
I've got nothing against the Jehovah's Witnesses. As a former Scientologist, the former members of other groups that seem to have the most in common with our experience and the ramifications and the disconnection and all that stuff is Jehovah's Witnesses. But that's
L. Ron Hubbard thinks he was the Buddha or something.
L. Ron Hubbard does say he was Buddha. He's the reincarnation of Buddha, and that's
Hubbard thinks he was the Buddha or something.
L. Ron Hubbard does say he was Buddha. He's the reincarnation of Buddha, and that was one of the things as a good little Scientologist. One day it dawned on me: if someone asked me, why do we think this man's words are so important? I don't even know what I would say. And then I saw this thing where he's like, I'm Buddha. I'm like, everybody loves Buddha. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Yes, he was Buddha.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Buddha.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I don't see like the beliefs of Scientology and other things, but obviously I see like cult-like behavior in absolutely everything.
Okay, hold on.
In absolutely everything.
Do you feel the same way about Mormons? That's a really common one that people bring up.
So, there's another channel.
Shit.
That's
All right.
So, there's another channel, another creator, a former Mormon named Shalise Ansola.
Okay.
And I've been on her channel. She's been on my channel, and she does something that I think I'll eventually do, which is focus on interviewing former members of all these other groups. And my conversations with Shalise are very much like these eye-opening. Wow, so much similarities.
I am going to have to go in just a small bit here to go pick something up. Want to, but if I'm gonna spend, if I'm gonna get something like that, I'm gonna spend like $800 plus. Just got scratched in the top. Just like, but I'm buying them for the panel, like not for the case. It's a little rocky. Anyways, yeah. So I'll be grabbing it in about half an hour here. You want the other one? I'm not a fan of the rings in there. Yeah, so just got mine in there. There. Sorry about that, guys. I'm going out to a Craigslist post or a dude to go get the get a monitor. Let's make sure.
For whatever reason, I do not get contacted by former Mormons the way that I do by former Jehovah's Witnesses. And also there's so many Mormons. I mean, there's like 20,000 Scientologists. There's probably like legitimately 10 or 15 million Mormons. They've got their own, they've got states, they've got senators, they've got, Scientology can't even get a council person. So, and I'm hesitant, and I try to really stay in my Scientology lane because obviously it's, I don't know enough about those organizations and their belief systems. You hear about Mitt Romney and the magic underwear and all that stuff when he was running for president.
Oh, that sounds bad.
A lot of those organizations and their belief systems. You hear about Mitt Romney and the magic underwear and all that stuff when he was running for president. And a lot of the weird Mormon stuff came to light the way the weird Scientology stuff comes to light. And it's like, I just don't know enough about their core belief. I'm hesitant to actually equate a large religion like Mormonism. And also there's so many Mormons. I mean, there's like 20,000 Scientologists.
Mormons versus Scientology.
I mean, there's like 20,000 Scientologists. There's probably like legitimately 10 or 15 million Mormons. They've got their own, they've got states, they've got senators, they've got, Scientology can't even get a council person. So, and I'm hesitant, and I try to really stay in my Scientology lane because obviously it's, I don't know enough about those organizations and their belief systems. You hear about Mitt Romney and the magic underwear and all that stuff when he was running for president. And a lot of the weird Mormon stuff came to light the way the weird Scientology stuff comes to light. And it's like, I just don't know enough about their core belief. I'm hesitant to actually equate a large religion like Mormonism with a tiny little human trafficking cult like Scientology.
Yeah, and it's less about the similarities in beliefs and more about just high control groups.
And I think all these organizations and organized religions in general are going to have these high control elements. And you have people who have different experiences.
Right.
I think in Scientology, people are more likely to have the same experience than in a giant organization like Mormonism. You're more likely to have people that are like, my God, I've never experienced that in any way, shape, or form. Whereas in Scientology, everybody knows someone who's, you know, done the RPF, been disconnected
Right.
from all
Yes.
this kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
If there are cult leaders that are listening, I'm hearing some.
Done the RPF, been disconnected
Right.
from all
Yes.
this kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
If there are cult leaders that are listening, if there are cult leaders that are listening, I'm hearing something that's very annoying. One of the advantages of capitalism and liberalism is that it incorporates its own criticism so effectively. So if you think of a lot of like socialists or whatever like today in America, they're oftentimes they're very successful capitalists. And liberalism is very good at incorporating so many different aspects of culture into it, such that it's not even like people say U.S. exports culture to the world. It's kind of true, but it's more that like the U.S. is like continuously participating in world culture as well. Like, Gangnam Style, K-pop, these different movies and actors. Every day I'm discovering, unfortunately, that another beloved American actor is actually British, and they were undercover the entire time. And I even noticed running my own community, there's a very fine line to walk between like how much criticism of myself that I host versus how much I try to get rid of. Because obviously I don't like to say criticism of me because that feels bad. But if you ban too much of it, then you start to develop these anti-fan communities that like just want to attack you.
Yeah.
And it seems, like in Catholicism, which is what I grew up in, and I think in Christianity in general, pretty sure they encourage a healthy amount of skepticism and like asking priests like, hey, like this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how is there evil if God is this and that?
Right.
Feels
They
like
say sometimes it actually makes your belief stronger.
Yeah,
to
you're
test
supposed to go through those phases, and it seems very strange that Scientology. That just seems like a very ineffective method of like you can't ask any questions, and it reminds me of the when you look out the window of an airplane, or when you look at a modern car, you see the airplane wing bend, and you see the car crumple, and you're like, ooh, yeah. This doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how is there evil if God is this and that?
Right.
Feels
They
like
say sometimes it actually makes your belief stronger.
Yeah,
to
you're
test
supposed to go through those phases, and it seems very strange that Scientology. That just seems like a very ineffective method of like you can't ask any questions, and it reminds me of the when you look out the window of an airplane, or when you look at a modern car, you see the airplane wing bend, and you see the car crumple, and you're like, ooh, they don't make them like they used to.
Yeah.
And it's like the bending is actually really good, because if it doesn't bend, then it snaps. So you'd rather have these things that are crumpling and that are bending instead of just like breaking in half. And it seems like very not good to have that.
That's a perfect example of how if someone, and I'll use the word smarter, even though it's not the right word, if someone smarter was running the show over at Scientology, I think it would theoretically be possible to reverse the spiral, because the whole you're so rigid you break, and if you're flexible you'd survive, that is something that is so obvious, especially when you're running a big organization. Like, how do you ensure the long-term survival of the organization? You've got to be flexible and able to change over time.
Yeah.
And it's so baked into Scientology that nothing can change. And yet you also have the contradiction that Miscavige has changed so much. But the one thing he hasn't changed is the ability to question without it being an attack.
Right.
Or criticize or report. Or you can criticize anyone, it's just not David Miscavige.
Right. And I think that maybe that works more on people who are already in or who grew up there. Like in Scientology, they believe that if you don't agree with something or you don't understand something that's in their policies, it's because there's a word in it that you don't understand. And it's sort of like, then you have to find what word you don't understand, look at it. If you still don't understand it, you have to go back. And it's like this thing where you're incentivized to be like, okay, I understand it now. Like, I can't keep doing this. Like, it's in your best interest to just like agree so you can stop doing that thing, or stop. Like, if you, like, you're not allowed to leave an auditing session unless you basically are happy. And so at some point you're just going to make yourself happy so that you can get out of it. So you're almost incentivized to pretend like it works. I mean, that's not on a big organizational level, but just like on a micro level, there's things built in that.
Yeah, but even this idea of questioning your faith, and that it's healthy to question your faith, oh my God, is that not okay in Scientology? It is not okay in Scientology. Even talking about things is actually forbidden. Like if I actually had something L. Ron Hubbard wrote, and you were either my supervisor or my senior, and I came to you and I said, "What does this mean?" You're literally not even allowed to talk to me about it. All you're
here we
allowed,
go.
and it's kind of what
The
you
answers
said.
are in,
You just
and
go,
we will spin.
"What word did you not understand?"
Why is it getting so choppy? Is it the cache? Okay, let's. Da 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 da. Da. Da da.
Like at like the sea, like the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Sea organization. And yeah, so it was like
In a room with a fan on, it would like suck all the.
Okay, I do actually have to slip out here. I gotta go grab the grab this monitor. Love you guys. I will be back on the stream a little later though.